before I started working with Phil, I would say that mentally and physically I was operating at about 60%. So I'd be more than halfway and I would kid myself into thinking, well, that's okay. I would be very good during the week and I would let good habits slip as soon as the weekend hit, which is probably the case of 90% of the people who Phil work with. So mentally and physically, yeah, I was probably operating at about 60%, and mentally I would kid myself into thinking that was okay. I tried a few things to lose weight before working with Phil, but I would still work hard in the gym 2 to 3 times a week, but I would neglect all the behind the scenes outside of the gym stuff, such as step count, such as calorie intake, such as macros. And I used to think, oh, it's all the physical stuff in the gym that would get the job done. But Phil has taught me that's just a very small portion of it, and it's holding that overall accountability that has made the true difference. So what made me reach out and ask for Phil's help? It was referred to as the boom bust cycle. So I would be very good through the week, or about 4 days a week. I would be very good going to the gym, watching what I was eating, and Friday afternoon would hit and I would go from being up here to down there by the Sunday afternoon, because it was the weekend, and I've led myself into this false sense of security that I'd earned a couple of takeaways because I've been to the gym a few times in the week. So I didn't necessarily gain weight all the time. I was just wondering why I was never losing any weight, because it wasn't stable enough over a prolonged period of time. I think what really stood out in the way that me and Phil work together is that Phil takes it seriously outside the gym as inside the gym. He holds you overall accountable for your own actions. So as professionally as possible, he has kept me right, and he has kept me on track, and he has corrected me. He has corrected me in a few words of when I have slipped up on my diet and when I have tried to take shortcuts in the gym as well. And he's just reminded me that it's all part of the process, and you're there to enjoy it, and it shouldn't be a chore. And so whenever things got hard, Phil would show me things to get around them, but to achieve the same goal. So for example, in the gym, Phil would, if I didn't particularly like a particular exercise because it was uncomfortable or I just didn't like the way it felt, Phil would alter that exercise to a different exercise or use different technique to make sure that I still reach the same goal. The most helpful, the most surprising part of training with Phil is that how quickly you actually see the results if you do them properly. So I did a weekly check-in with Phil. When I slipped up during the week, he changed it to twice a week check-in for that overall accountability. And therefore that helped me to really nail down on my diet and to really nail down in the gym and to make sure that I was doing the exercises with correct form as often as possible. It taught me to swallow my pride and to do less weight with correct form rather than trying to lift as heavily as possible and not really having good form. So when the weekly check-ins or the twice a week check-ins came in, it was very surprisingly rewarding to see the scales drop after those check-ins with Phil, and to see that my measurements were going down or up in muscle mass. So that was the most enjoyable part, and as that went on, it became weirdly addictive. So the things that I used to think were a chore were becoming, I would look forward to, or what can I do next for a better result? What can I do next for a better result? And I'm not saying that from then on it was easy, because obviously in life you still have these slip-ups, but it was Phil that was holding that overall accountability that made it weirdly addictive.